Quick Easy English Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Quick Easy English Podcast. I'm Jake.
And I'm Emily. Today we're sharing a very real, very intense airport experience that happened to me and Jake just a few months ago.
Yep, this is not a story about some stranger. This happened to us, and we learned a lot about airports, time, pressure, and even trust.
Let's take you back to that day. It was early morning, around 6:30 a.m. We were flying to Boston for a conference. Everything was packed, suitcase, documents, passports, or so we thought.
The ride to the airport was easy. No traffic. We were talking, listening to music, making jokes. I even remember saying, "This is going to be a smooth day." Never say that too early.
Exactly. We arrived at the airport around 7:10 a.m., plenty of time before our flight at 10 o'clock. We had about 3 hours and I was relaxed. Maybe too relaxed.
The airport was busy, but not chaotic. We walked into Terminal 3, found the check-in zone for our airline, and got in line.
Now here's where it starts. As we're waiting in line, I ask Jake, "Hey, can you give me my passport?" He looks at me, a bit confused.
Yeah. I reached into my jacket pocket, then the front pocket of my backpack, then the side one, then my jeans. I couldn't feel it. You know that sinking feeling when your fingers touch nothing but fabric?
I remember the look on your face. It changed in an instant. From calm, to nervous, to full panic.
I tried to laugh it off. "It must be somewhere," I said. But deep down, I already knew something was wrong.
We stepped aside from the line. I opened every part of my bag. Jake checked his again and again. We even emptied out a tote bag, thinking maybe it slipped in there. Nothing.
And then it hit me. At the coffee shop, before entering the terminal, I pulled out my wallet. Maybe the passport slipped out then?
That was the moment everything changed. We were in the airport, our flight was in 3 hours, and we had no passport.
I ran back toward the entrance. The cafe was still there. Same barista. I asked if anyone turned in a passport.
He said no. I checked under the table, under chairs, the trash bin next to the counter. Nothing. I even asked a cleaning staff if they'd seen it.
No one had.
Back at the terminal, I sat there thinking, we had a decision to make: go to security and pray the passport would turn up, or start calling embassies, cancel the flight, rearrange everything.
We still had time, so I went to the lost and found. A small room with a sleepy-looking woman at a desk. I asked her if anyone brought in a lost passport.
She asked for my name, checked a list. Then she looked at me and said, "Sorry, nothing has been turned in."
It was 8:10 a.m. Almost an hour had passed. The mood changed, from confused to quiet panic.
And at that moment, I had a flashback. I remembered taking a selfie with Jake outside the terminal. He had the passport in his hand. I zoomed in on the photo. Yep, there it was. In his hand, just 50 minutes ago.
We started retracing every step from that photo to now. I remembered someone helping us with a cart. Maybe I dropped it then?
So we went back to the curbside area, asked around. One staff member said he remembered seeing something fall but didn't know what happened to it.
We were running low on options. It was 8:35 a.m.
But we weren't giving up. We decided to go to the main security station, thinking maybe someone gave it to an officer.
There, we met a woman named Officer Delaney. She was the first one who really tried to help.
She checked a small drawer next to her desk, and to our shock, she pulled out a blue cover.
My passport. She said a man had found it near the carts and gave it to her 45 minutes ago.
That feeling, I can't describe it. Relief? Joy? I almost cried.
But no time for emotions. We still had to go through security and reach our gate.
It was 8:50 by now. We rushed through security, no issues, no alarms. And at 9:15, we were finally sitting at gate 24, waiting to board.
The irony? The flight got delayed by 30 minutes. After all that rushing.
But we learned something important that day. Always double-check documents. Never get too relaxed. And take photos, they might save your trip. So there we were at the gate, finally able to breathe. The passport drama was over, or so we thought. We got coffee, sat down, and laughed about the whole thing.
Honestly, I thought the worst was behind us. I even joked that from here on, the flight would be easy and we'd be eating dinner in Boston by sunset.
But that day had different plans for us. Around 9:45, we heard the boarding announcement. We got in line, scanned our passes, and stepped onto the jet bridge.
You know that feeling when you finally board? It's like a finish line after a long race. But the moment we entered the plane, I noticed something strange.
The flight attendants were whispering. One was on the phone, another was frowning while checking her tablet, and passengers weren't moving forward, they were just standing in the aisle.
Something was clearly wrong, and we were all just stuck there on the bridge, holding our bags.
Then a voice came on the overhead speaker, calm but firm. Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a small technical issue. Please remain patient.
A small technical issue. That phrase is never comforting when you're about to take off.
We stood there for 20 minutes. People were getting restless. Some sat down on the floor, others were checking their watches or sighing loudly.
I tried to stay calm, but honestly, I just wanted to sit down and get the flight started.
Finally, we were allowed to walk in and take our seats. But here's the thing, the air conditioning wasn't working. At all.
And that plane was heating up like a greenhouse. It felt like we were inside a giant toaster.
I started fanning myself with a magazine. Jake had already taken off his hoodie. And it wasn't just us, everyone was sweating.
That's when the captain made another announcement. We're waiting for maintenance to arrive. The cooling system needs a reset.
It was 10:15. We were still on the ground. No air, no movement, and people were starting to get frustrated.
I looked around and thought, okay, deep breath. Just be patient.
But the next hour tested that patience in ways we didn't expect. First, a child started crying loudly. Then, an elderly woman near us felt faint and had to be moved to the front for air.
It was getting bad. The flight attendants brought cups of ice water. They opened cabin doors, but nothing helped.
And then came the announcement we were dreading. Ladies and gentlemen, this aircraft is not fit for departure. Please gather your belongings and deboard.
That sentence hit like a hammer. We had already survived the passport panic. Now we had to leave the plane?
Everyone sighed in disbelief. You could hear groans, people muttering under their breath. A woman in front of us just shook her head and said, "Unbelievable."
So we grabbed our bags again and exited, back through the jet bridge, back to the gate.
And here's the thing. No one knew what would happen next. Would they get us a new plane? Would we wait hours? Would the flight be canceled?
There was no clear answer, just a growing line at the customer service desk.
We sat back down and just stared ahead. I remember thinking, how is this all still the same day?
And then I heard the words that brought me back to life. Replacement aircraft will arrive in approximately 90 minutes.
That meant we had a chance. We weren't doomed yet. But now the waiting game began.
And during that wait, something interesting happened. We started talking to the people around us. A young woman next to us was traveling to see her grandmother. A man across the aisle was heading to a job interview.
Everyone had a story. Everyone had a reason for flying, and somehow that shared inconvenience brought people together.
We started laughing again, sharing snacks, charging our phones at the same outlet. It was kind of beautiful in a chaotic way.
The new plane arrived just after noon. Everyone clapped when the crew walked past. I think we were all just ready to get in the air.
And when we finally took off at 12:45 p.m., 2 hours and 45 minutes later than planned, it felt like a victory.
As the wheels left the ground, I leaned back, looked at Jake, and said, "Okay, now we can breathe."
But even in the sky, we couldn't stop thinking about everything that had happened. The passport, the heat, the delay, the strangers we met.
It was the kind of day that tests your patience, your preparation, and even your attitude.
But it also reminds you, you can't control everything. And sometimes the delays are part of the adventure.
So we were finally in the air, leaving all the airport chaos behind. Or, at least we thought we were.
Yeah, it was that kind of trip. Just when you think the worst is over, life surprises you again.
About an hour into the flight, I reached for my bag under the seat. I was going to grab my notebook to review some ideas for our conference. But when I opened the front pocket, something was off.
She turned to me and whispered, "Hey Jake, my wallet's not here."
At first, I thought maybe I had placed it in the wrong pocket. I checked every zipper, every compartment. I even opened Jake's bag, thinking maybe I had put it there by mistake.
No wallet.
That was the moment I realized I must have left it somewhere in the airport, maybe at the security check, or at the gate, or even in the first plane we had to deboard.
And here's the thing, her wallet had everything in it. ID, credit cards, even the hotel key card.
I sat there frozen, thousands of feet in the air, with no way to do anything about it.
We were flying, but mentally, we were back at the terminal, retracing every step again.
I started thinking, what if someone found it? What if they took the cash? Worse, what if they used the cards?
We were lucky to have Wi-Fi on the flight. So we connected immediately, and Emily logged into her bank app.
No charges. Yet.
She froze the cards, just in case. At least that gave us a little peace of mind.
Then I started sending emails to the airline, to the airport lost and found, just hoping someone might have found it and turned it in.
And remember, we still had hours of travel left plus the conference. It was like carrying this little knot of anxiety with us the whole time.
But we didn't let it ruin everything. Not this time. We made a decision right then. We'd keep going. If the wallet showed up, great. If not, well, we'd handle it.
That decision changed everything, because we stopped focusing on what was lost and started appreciating what we still had.
Each other, first of all, and also the ability to adapt. You don't realize how strong you are until something like this happens.
We landed in Boston, went straight to the hotel, checked in with my ID. They were understanding, thankfully.
Later that evening, I got an email from a woman named Karen at the airport's Lost and Found desk. She wrote, "Hi, Emily. I believe we found your wallet. Please confirm the contents."
We both yelled at the screen.
I replied instantly, listing everything inside, and she confirmed it. It had been left on the seat of the original plane. One of the flight attendants found it during cleanup.
And they kept it safe, labeled it, and set it aside in the office.
Here's the best part. They even offered to mail it to our hotel the next day. And they did.
The kindness of strangers you never expected. But when it shows up, it means everything.
When I opened that envelope the next morning and saw my wallet again, I felt this huge wave of gratitude. Not just relief, but actual appreciation for people I never met.
We sat there in the hotel lobby, coffee in hand, looking at the wallet, and just smiled.
That trip taught me something very personal. Losing something doesn't mean the story ends. Sometimes, the search itself gives you something even more valuable than the object. So, we made it through the flight. We made it through the missing passport, the boiling hot airplane, the lost wallet, and even a presentation without a real presentation.
It sounds crazy when you say it like that. But looking back, it really happened. Every single moment. And here we are now telling the story.
That's the thing. You don't realize how strong or resourceful you are until everything goes wrong.
And when things go wrong, it's not the end. It's just a different kind of beginning. The beginning of growth, of clarity, of stories that stay with you.
So, we wanted to wrap up this episode by sharing the biggest lessons we took from that journey. Not just travel tips, but life tips. Because this trip changed us.
Let's start with the obvious one. Lesson 1. Always double-check your important items. Passports, wallets, laptops, the essentials. Don't assume. Check with your eyes and hands. Twice.
And don't just put things somewhere safe. Make sure they're in the right place. Your jacket pocket isn't the safest spot in the middle of a busy terminal.
Exactly. Okay. Lesson 2. Leave room for mistakes. No matter how well you plan, life will surprise you. Build in time. Don't cut things too close. We had 3 hours at the airport, and we still almost missed our flight.
Lesson 3. Stay calm, especially when it's hard. We had so many chances to panic, but the truth is, panic makes everything worse. If you stop, breathe, and think there's almost always a way forward.
Even if that way forward is completely unexpected.
Lesson 4 backups are lifesavers. Email yourself a copy of your slides. Save a photo of your passport. Share key documents with someone you trust. Digital backup can save real-world stress.
And on that note, Lesson 5. People are kinder than you think. From the security officer who held the passport, to the airline staff who returned the wallet, to the conference crew who gave us water. In time, we were surrounded by quiet kindness.
It's easy to think the world is harsh, but when you're vulnerable, when you ask for help, people usually show up.
Lesson 6. Be flexible. You can't control every detail, but you can control your response. Flexibility isn't weakness. It's actually strength in disguise.
Yes, being able to pivot, whether it's rewriting a presentation or rerouting your thinking, is a superpower.
Lesson 7. Problems are just unexpected stories. Every time we've told this story, people listen. Not because we were perfect, but because we were real. Struggles connect us.
And the funny thing is, now, I wouldn't trade that chaotic trip for anything. It gave me more than any smooth trip ever could. We hope this episode inspired you, entertained you, and reminded you that mistakes are not failures, they're just detours with character.
And character is what turns language learners into confident speakers and regular days into unforgettable adventures.
Thank you for spending this journey with us. We'll see you next time on the Quick Easy English podcast.
And remember, even at the airport, even when everything seems wrong, just breathe, adapt, and keep going.